for a minute. Zoom flames. Getting too hot to hold. So we talked earlier about a rabbit. We're out shooting our bows. You can't guarantee that you're gonna find a rabbit when you come out, and oftentimes when I'm filming, I'm on a very limited amount of time. When I just go out and hunt and get rabbits, I just do my thing, and I'm not filming, I just do my thing. But for this video, we wanted to show how to process a rabbit. It's incredibly important because so many people do survival related things, and when I take people out in the backcountry and I actually kill a rabbit and I go, here you go, they're like, what is this creature? It's not wrapped in plastic and it didn't come from the deli, and it confuses the crap out of people. So I seriously believe one of the most important things you can do and learn how to do is to process game. So that's what we're gonna do here. Sam's gonna do it, I'm gonna teach her what she's doing, and then I'm gonna let her go for it. We're not gonna show you the footage of me dispatching the rabbit, all right? We brought a meat rabbit. We've already got our fire going from the boat or the hand drill we did a second ago. And a meat rabbit is just, a lot of people grow rabbits in their backyard for meat, for the purpose of it. So the purpose that this rabbit was grown was to eat. It's gonna be lunch for all three of us today. One of the most natural ways that you can have food, one of the best ways to control it. You grew it, you know it hasn't got any chemicals in it, you know it doesn't have any synthetic hormones, you know it's had a good life, you know that that was the purpose for the animal. All right, so I'm gonna stop talking about this. You don't want to see a rabbit get skinned, again, don't watch my video. If you do, you want to learn, you want to know how to process food, eat natural game, this is the place for you. All right, so stay tuned. Okay, so if you kill a rabbit in the wild, the very first thing you need to worry about is tularemia or diseases. If the rabbit was lethargic and it has some mange looking on its coat, it's probably got something called tularemia, which is a bacteria, so you wear gloves. If you don't have gloves, you just hope that you don't have any cuts on your hand, give it to someone who doesn't have a cut on your hand. There's certain things that you can do to deal with it, but do understand rabbits are a varmint. They live in big groups of, what's the word I'm looking for? Harems, mobs of rabbits, big bundles of rabbits. Because of that, just like squirrels and any other animal, they can pass plague and all sorts of other stuff. But what you need to prevent that is make sure that there isn't some mange-looking problems with its fur. This rabbit has nice soft fur. There's no mange-looking issues. This is a meat rabbit that was grown for this purpose, so I know it doesn't have anything, but I want you to know to watch out for that. One saying I like is only hunt rabbits in months that end in R. September, December, January, months that have R's in them. And basically what you're doing is you're only hunting it in the winter. In the winter, the cold tends to destroy any kind of bacteria or anything for the most part that you're gonna have to deal with. In the middle of the summer, that's when you gotta really start watching out for ticks and diseases and stuff. So when you do cook a rabbit, cook it very well, and that'll burn and kill anything that it has. And do not eat rabbits that have mange, or let's call it big ringworm looking spots, or spots on their liver. So if you watch out for those two things, you should be okay. If you're absolutely desperate, just boil the crap out of it and eat it, you'll be okay, because it'll kill anything living. Is going to be pasteurized once it's been boiled long enough. That's why you can boil water and drink it. So those are ways to look at it. Okay, So let's get to how to skin this rabbit. There's two main ways that you can do this. If you grab the rabbit right here behind the neck and you just make a slit with your knife, or right in the dead center of the body and you make a slit and then pull it apart kind of like an apricot or whatever, you'll get the center of the rabbit out. The problem with that is it doesn't preserve the pelt. So if you want to preserve the pelt, you're gonna skin a rabbit the same way you would a deer. Because that's the most useful technique, I'm gonna show you that one on the video. It gives you a pelt that you can tan. It gives you options. In the winter, if you killed a couple rabbits and you skinned them and turned that pelt inside out, now you've got gloves. They're kind of temporary, but they'll keep you from freezing your fingers off and losing them. So she's gonna do the skinning. We've already got her gloved up. The way that you'll start this out is you're gonna cut a slit around the ankles, about where the Achilles tendon is, on both ankles. You're gonna cut a line to right in front of the groin area, okay? And then you're gonna cut a line around the back of the tail. What this does is it kind of separates all of the tail, the anus, all of the groin area, so that it won't taint the meat. And you're gonna understand that skin on a rabbit is really, really thin. So unless you've got bone behind it, if you're cutting in the gut area, pull it up to cut it, because you don't want to cut through into the gut cavity. You can get E. coli from the intestinal tract all over your meat, and that's a problem. All right, I'll do this leg if you want to do that one. Bark River was awesome enough to send us a first production run Kalahari 2, which is the mini Kalahari, which is the small Kalahari. This is just an old school skinner. It's got a similar swept blade design to the Nessamuk knife from back in the day. Makes it a phenomenal skinner. Anyway, so that's why I chose this knife. So you're essentially just gonna cut right here around this leg. You can see how it starts to separate. All right, and you can see how that starts to separate. And once you've made that initial cut, you pull the skin away from the leg and then just continue to cut. All right, and once that comes loose, can't quite see it, then it will slide down. And that way you know you've got a complete cut. And you're cutting above where that meat is, because there's meat here on the leg, there's a bunch of meat that you want access to. There isn't any real meat from the ankle down that you can deal with.
Thank you.
Go ahead and give that one.
This right here?
Yep. So feel where the meat is, go above the ankle and below the meat, because then you don't want to cut the meat. Yep.
Okay.
And then just keep your thumb out of the road. You'll feel it start to slice.
Yeah.
Give it a nice push slice right against that shin bone. Once that's cut, then you can start pulling it away. There you go. See how it starts to peel back? Okay, now she's got that all separated. Now what she's gonna do, and I'll do it on this side, I will pull the skin back, put my finger right here on the blade, okay, and then run it up on the inside of it. Or you can just pull it back and you can feel how there's skin inside here and meat in there, and just run your blade along the inside there and it will just start to separate. And this keeps me from slicing into the meat or going too deep. And I'm just gonna trace that right along the leg. See how that starts to pull back? Go ahead and look right close. It pulls that skin back, and then I can just cut that skin as I come up towards the stomach. Now in here you'll start to see fat and stomach. Do not cut into that if you can, otherwise it starts to get the nastiness into the meat.
Okay, so just along here?
Yep, you're gonna cut right along there, and you're gonna connect this cut with that cut.
Okay.
I'll hold that leg for you. So she's pulling the meat back. You're gonna grab the blade kind of high because it gives you better control. There you go. There you go. So kind of pull right here. Pull this up.
This way?
Yep,
Oh,
and then
okay.
cut right along where that pulls. There you go. A little bit of technique to it, but you don't want to cut so hard that you cut into the meat. There you go, now you're cutting it. You'll start to feel it kind of separate.
Yeah.
You see right there was where it's splitting right there? That's where you want to cut, but not any deeper than that, because now you're cutting into the meat. Perfect. See how she cut the skin and not the meat? That's perfect. And hair has a tendency to roll. Hair doesn't cut very well. So you'll feel like you're cutting and then you're not cutting. It's because you're rolling the hair underneath the blade. So that's just something to watch out for. All right, now you're gonna connect this cut and this cut right here.
Just straight across?
Yep. Just pull this up. So I'm pulling. Go ahead and cut between my fingers right there. And just a sec. Okay, go ahead again. Oh, you're cutting into the guts. That's right. Cut there. There you go. Okay, just cut the meat. Hold high on the blade, and that way you will have a little more control. Just a sec. Keep going. There you go. So once you get these two connected, cut right there. Just a sec. And then cut right here. See how that's connective tissue? Nope, cut at this angle.
Oh, we're cutting up?
Yep, because then you're cutting that angle, so you're not cutting into the gut.
Okay.
And then you're gonna make one line from here all the way to there. All right? So if you're worried about that meat, it'll kind of pull itself apart. You just pull up right there. You see how there's skin and then there's meat underneath it? You just want to cut that skin. And then eventually, once we get this going, you'll be able to just rip it. Okay? And another thing too, you don't have to cut all the way to the bottom. You do if you want to keep it nice. You can actually get to where we're just going to rip this free. And it ends up just coming off. I cut a little bit of meat there. On accident, I cut that tendon. So, hold on that tendon for me.
I think I did that on the other side too.
Yeah, it's all good. You'll get to where you're just pulling the meat away and just cutting the connective tissue like that. Ooh. But once you get this all started, you'll be able to, go ahead and pull on the leg. You will be able to just peel it back. Yeah, a little bit of tendon cut right there. Cut through the skin. And this technique preserves all of that skin to tan later, or if you're going to use it for whatever. Go ahead and hold that. And you're just basically separating the connective tissues. But now when we get behind this tail, could hold that. We're just going to cut and leave that attached. And notice I pull it away from the body so I don't cut into the meat and everything below it on accident. Pull this right here. Okay, now that we've made that separation, go ahead and hang it by its legs. Now we can just peel the hide back, and you can just reach in here and separate it with your hands. Okay? So if I just push my fingers in, if I run right here, I'm kind of running into a tendon. I'll just cut that a little bit. So you get this connective tissue, just slice it with your knife. Or if you're just doing this by hand or with a piece of flint, you just roll your hand inside of that and see how it just pulls it apart. You might have to cut some of the connective tissue, but for the most part,
it just separates.
Yep. It just separates. You just peel it with your hand like that. Just pull real hard. Pretty much gloves, keep pulling. Pretty much gloves that whole thing just like that. Keep pulling. Don't pull too hard, it'll flick you.
Yeah.
Okay, once you get kind of stuck, and that's all you have to really do is peel it off like that. Okay, I'm gonna let you finish it up.
Okay, what am I doing now?
Just keep pulling these apart. Once you get stuck at the wrist here, go ahead and keep pulling. Grab them right here.
Okay, I was like, awkward.
Once you start to get stuck at the wrist, you don't need the head, and this neck has already been broken, so I can actually take the head off. All right. And then once it gets down here around the wrist, area. You get to here, and then you bend these wrists and cut the tendons. Be careful not to cut. You can actually just pull this off and it will make a little glove. Unless you just want to cut the tendons and remove the feet. If that's the case, no knives do very well against bones. So try not to cut bones. If you're going to cut these, cut it at the tendons, bend it, and then just remove it that way. And that pops those little feet off without messing up your knife. You can do that other one.
Right there. Okay.
Perfect. Working smarter, not harder. Ha ha ha.
That's funny.
Okay, and basically we have a mostly clean rabbit. Now this last part right here, you're going to want to separate this and get that out too. Take that tail off. Go ahead and hold him so he's not sliding away.
Good amount of meat.
Yeah. You'd think a lot of it too though is
Organ.
yeah, organs. Okay, now a lot of people will gut the inside. I don't really like doing that. I like to clean this off a little bit. I like to take the meat from the back, okay? That way there's no cross-contamination. So right along this bone is where you're gonna get into the meat. Just cut up along that spine, right along this spine here. And then right along this hip bone. And there's all of your meat from that hind quarter. You can feel it sliding kind of along the hip bone. Now, if you're in a survival situation, you would just gut it and boil it, because then you get more meat out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But we're just gonna eat these guys for lunch. I'm gonna take it out this way. Okay, you'll dig in until you find the hip bone, and then you'll cut around the hip bone until all the tendons again have released it. I'm not cutting very well right there. Losing some meat. Find that hip bone right there. Cut down inside the socket. And there is a chunk of meat. Now for this one, I'm gonna remove the meat right here on that shin bone. We're gonna peel it back and then take it off at the knee, the same way we did it earlier. Just cut in the joint on the tendons. Until I remove it completely. You can keep this little bone like as a stick to control it when you're cooking over the fire if you want. And notice I'm not grinding up against the bone, because bones will jack up knives really badly. Not so much rabbit bones as other like elk bones and stuff, but it's still good to know. You're gonna feel a bone right here. You gotta cut here and then slide the meat over this bone that's inside there. And then cut right along that line so you can feel there's a bone right here. You're basically removing meat from the pelvic girdle.
foot flex when I pull that tendon.
Good.
Almost done.
Okay, so the last part that you're gonna need to do, now that she's got her 2 back quarters, you're gonna do the exact same thing to this front arms on both sides, and then right here on the back, there's some meat right here that you can take as well. All this is guts. You can't really cook any of it, with the exception of the liver and the heart. You can boil that really well. But I like this technique because we've never exposed any of the guts. So there's a much less probability of dealing with E. coli or bacteria from the intestinal system. Again, if it's a survival situation, I'm gonna cut right here along the rib cage. I'm gonna get the heart and I'm gonna get the liver, and that's gonna be added. I'm gonna cut the back straps off the beneath the shoulder blades. I'm gonna take this front arm part as well. I'm gonna dig in and get the last little bits of chunks of meat there. You really could empty the intestines, cook those as well. There's a lot more that you can do if you're starving to death. Just understand those are techniques that you can do as well.
Rolling.
Okay, so we're gonna clean the fur off the meat before we cook it. You can either cook it over an open flame or you can put it in a pot and boil it. If you have river water that's cleanish, you can just use river water to clean it, because you're gonna cook it on a fire and that's gonna kill any parasites that might be in the river water. We're not close to a river at all, so we're just gonna give it a little bit of a trickle bath. So you're gonna have someone hold it, we just barely trickle it, and she's gonna clean the all the fur off of it, because fur tastes gross.
That's true.
And you're gonna get a little bit of fur on it. It is what it is. If you have the ability, a little dirt. If you have the ability to hang the animal from a tree with some cordage while you're skinning it, that helps a lot too. Okay, and then you can wrap it in leaves, but don't wrap it in some toxic leaves. Or some leaves you can, and some leaves you cannot wrap it in. So let's clean that last chunks of meat. Don't drop it in the dirt again.
Got dandelion leaves right here.
Yeah, that's true. Grab me some dandelion leaves. You can cook it, you can boil it with dandelion leaves. There's a lot of different ways to do it. In fact, I think we're gonna cook a couple of these on the open flame, and then we're gonna boil the rest of it in this little pot right here. Okay, so we'll clean off those last little pieces. Hopefully I got enough water. I got more than over there in the truck.
Work too.
Okay, throw that one in here.
This one?
Yeah, that's fine. One reason that you would want to boil is if you have some of that other stuff that we're not using in this specific batch. It cooks the fat out of the rabbit. One thing you don't get a lot from is rabbit fat, unless you're using the fat underneath the skin and the brain, the heart and the liver. So you want that fat. So if you're in a survival situation, be sure to boil and drink the liquid, because that helps get the fat where you wouldn't normally get it. A lot of times cooking it over open flame will end up cooking the fat. So here is 3 different ways to cook the meat. This is on a rock. It's a reflective rock, so the heat from that fire right here is going to reflect up onto the meat. This is boiling in a stew. This is right on top of coals, and he's hanging that one up in the flame. So actually 4 different ways. So dropping it in the dirt, you're fired. Another thing you can do is just carve a willow stick and skewer that meat. That way it works. Whatever you do, don't cook it right in the flame. Try to cook it on coals because that's a lower temperature. And that is a quick tutorial on how to process game once you've trapped it or shot it or whatever else. Thank you, Sam, for coming and skinning some rabbit. Brayden, the camera guy, you're a good man. What'd you think of that knife we gave you, Sam?
I liked it.
Have you got
It's
it?
very...
Brayden steal from you?
Yeah, he stole it. You know, that's what he does.
Give me your thoughts on that puppy right there.
It's small, but like, I mean, so my hands are kind of small, so it works well. And then it has feel good control. I've never used like a specific skinning knife before, so it was interesting having something that.
How did it perform compared to other things that you've used?
It was very sharp. I was able to have very good control over it, so that was really good. And then it's able to do a lot of fun work, so I really liked it.
Yeah, do you think you could use it for bushcraft in the future?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah?
Definitely will.
Very nice. All right, guys. Well, if this video has been valuable to you, please hit the subscribe button and leave any comments you have in the bottom. And thank you for watching T-Jack Survival. So thanks. See ya.
See you
Later.
See ya.